All right, everybody, welcome to tonight's free group coach call. My name is Camille Rose Soler. I am the founder of the Ultimate Life and super stoked to be here. It is Monday, May 15th, 2017, and we already got about 13 people joining us, which I'm very excited about. This is my first public group coaching call. Just again, another shout out to Aaron, Jason from Washington, Stephanie from Virginia. We got Jessica here from Utah. Krisha, hey girl. She's from LA. Normie, my best friend since kindergarten, from San Francisco, joining us. Erin's out in the Silicon Valley. She's repping the Bay Area all day. Yee. I see you, girl. And all right, so let's get it started. So just so
and Annette.
And Annette.
Annette from Los Angeles.
Oh, Annette. Hi, girl. How you doing?
Hi. Great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. So, Annette, I'm going to go. Are you joining on the phone or are you joining?
I am.
Okay.
No, I'm on the phone.
Okay, beautiful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everybody just for now, just to so that no one gets any confused at all. So if you hear something that says I'm muting you, it's only because I'm going to mute everybody right now. But I'm super excited that you're joining us.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. So again, if you're joining online on the computer, shout me out in the chat box. Should be at the bottom right corner of your screen. Let me know where you're from. And if you have any questions as I go along, I'm going to do a little bit of talk on my own personal mindset and confidence techniques, kind of give you a rundown of what I do. But if things come up for you as we're talking, then please put your question in the chat box to the right-hand corner below. I'll get to them as much as I can. And yeah, we ready to rock and roll? Hey, Maria. You're joining in from LASU. Nelly Perez. Nelly, where are you joining us from? Let me know in the chat box below. Oh, this is so exciting. Technology is amazing. I've never done this before. This is rad. All right, you all. Nelly from San Antonio, Texas. Oh, this is so beautiful. And as a heads up to everyone as well, I'm going to be doing another one of these calls probably in the next month. And a lot of the audience is going to be joining us from the Philippines, actually. I've been requested from folks over there to do a group coaching call with them. So I'll send out that link. Everyone, again, is more than welcome. And a majority of the people on this particular call will be coming from the other side of the planet if you're currently in the United States. So that call, just so you all know, may be at a very odd time, just because I need to get onto the time zone in Manila. But that'll be a good one. So again, everyone is currently muted. And the reason is that I just wanted to be able to serve you all first, and then we'll get to your questions right after. And if you have any questions, concerns, then just go ahead and put that in the chat box down at the bottom. I'll get to a couple people who are joining us on the phone. I can definitely see you on my end, so I'll know who that is. And let's get it started. Dave Curlin, real quick, you said, I don't have audio, trying to figure it out. You know what? I'm not a techie sort of person, but if you go to the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, there may be a little microphone that tells you how to set up your audio. Okay, so let's get it started. Again, as I mentioned, I'm really excited for you all to be here. My name is Camille Rose Soler, and I am the founder of the Ultimate Life. So if you're on my mailing list, you probably have an idea of what I do, but you're not quite sure. You just know that I like what this woman talks about. It's really inspiring. It's really positive. I'd like to get to know her a little bit better. So that's what this space is going to be today. So just to give you all a little bit on me, I am an inspirational speaker, and I am a mindset and confidence coach for entrepreneurs, for CEOs, for leaders, and really anybody who is looking to lead a life of love and a higher level of themselves. And how I got into this work, to be quite honest with you, was about 3 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago, when I sort of hit my own emotional rock bottom. And at the time, I had just gotten out of a relationship that completely broke my heart. Norman, who's my best friend, he's also on the call. He knows exactly what I'm talking about because he's been there with me throughout it all. I also at the time was transitioning in my own career. I had to move back to my mom's house. I didn't have a car, like the whole nine. And I remember there was a day where I was looking at myself in the mirror while crying over this entire scenario. And I didn't like the woman that I saw. And it was really that simple. But it was such a devastating feeling for me because I couldn't believe it. I had done all these amazing things in my life, at least in my perspective. I felt very blessed. And yet I didn't like, I didn't love, I didn't enjoy seeing myself. I didn't realize how much I was putting my own self-worth based off of the things that I accomplished rather than who I was as an individual. And I don't know if any of you on here have ever had that feeling, but if you have, please definitely put it in the chat box so I don't feel so alone in this. But I was just used to being the go-to person in my family for everything. I was used to being the best friend that everyone called on. I was used to getting straight A's. I was doing everything. I was in leadership and in basketball and in the Filipino community. I mean, you name it, I did it. I was a human doing, not a human being anymore. I was so used to doing. And then the time that everything got stripped from me, the relationship that I so loved and cared for, the job that I self-identified with, the car that represented my financial accolades, the place I lived that made me feel good, when all of that was removed and I had nothing but myself to look at, I wasn't exactly the happiest person. And that's what shocked me. Because if you were a friend that looked at me from the outside, you would not think that. You would say, oh, Camille's got it all together. She's so confident all the time. What is she talking about? But I felt empty. And so it was in that moment that I felt super unloving towards myself that I decided, you know what? I will never feel this way again. I never want to hit this level of sadness because it's not what I believed in. So I decided to do a deep dive on myself. You know, I had always dabbled in personal development. I read really inspirational books. I was always really attracted to, you know, reading quotes from Oprah and Tony Robbins and the Dalai Lama and, you know, all this stuff. But I never really did it for myself. Like really studied it to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a deep dive on me. And I did. I finally did. You know, I started going to these different meetups. I joined different women's groups. I invested in myself for the first time by going to my own personal development seminar. I actually went to a Tony Robbins one that completely changed my way of thinking. And it just resonated. I started to feel something inside of me come alive again, something inside of me to realign again. And I was like, oh, this is the piece that I'm missing. But it wasn't until this moment of super unloving state, a completely depressed state, a completely down state, that I realized like, nope, this is not what I want. And I got very clear on what I do want moving forward. So one little piece that I want to give you all here, and just so you all know, if you're not taking notes right now, that's totally fine, but I definitely suggest if you have a pen and paper to have it handy, because as I go through all these different pieces of my own personal story, and then also some coaching techniques that I'm going to go over with you, things may hit you, ideas may come, something might resonate with you. And I highly suggest you have a pen and paper only to be able to take these down in the moment. Because when we're in flow, and I'll explain to you what I mean by flow, is when you're in flow, things are going to come to you so quickly and you might forget later on. So this is definitely a good time to get out a pen and paper. But one thing I wanted to give you in this story right now that I'm telling you is that in contrast, and I'll explain what I mean by that, but you can just write down, in contrast comes clarity and conviction. So I'll repeat that for you all. In contrast comes clarity and conviction. So what that means is, in our life, we will have many moments of what I call contrast. Things that happen that are completely in opposition to perhaps what you want. The loss of a job, the loss of a relationship, emotional feeling that you don't like, a moment of death, a moment of sickness. It's just completely in the opposition to what you desire. But here's the thing. If you can realize that in that moment of contrast is when you get the most clarity on what you do want And when you become the most convicted for wanting that other thing, that's where the magic starts to happen. That's why you always hear these stories of people like, oh, when I hit rock bottom, that's when everything changed for me. Well, why? Because you realize something in your life that this is what I do not want at all. Fantastic. You want that moment, because in that moment, you get so much clarity on what you do want. But see, this is where people get lost. And I want to pause for a moment in my own story, because I want you to hear your story in this, right? Is that people get so caught up in the current situation, meaning, I can't believe this happened to me. Why am I going through this again? Why is it like this and like this and like this and like this? And they only look at the negativity. But here's where you, as a leader of love, this is my challenge to you all, is the minute you experience contrast. In other words, the minute you experience something you don't like, say thank you. Because you got that much clearer on what you do want, and say that. Say thank you. Now I know I don't want this. Let me figure out what I do want. That's the moment of clarity. The second piece to this, remember, like I said, is conviction. When you have enough emotional momentum towards something you don't want, meaning it's so uncomfortable for you. I never want to feel this again. I never want to go through this again. This is horrible. This sucks. You will get enough conviction, enough passion, enough emotional intensity towards what you do want. And see, Tony Robbins was very famous at saying this, but emotion is energy in motion. Emotion is energy in motion, and you need that energy. In other words, you need that level of conviction to push in the other direction. Here's another piece that I will give you all. Is when you have energy in your life, energy does not discriminate between fear and love. Now, stay with me, because I know this is a little bit of a far-fetched concept. But energy does not discriminate between fear and love. All energy sees is the amount of intensity you're putting to either side. So meaning, if you fear something enough, there's so much emotional intensity, you will most likely attract that which you fear. And I know many of you may have experienced this, because I know I have, that if you just give yourself enough attention to something that you don't like, sometimes that's the one thing you do get. And, definitely type in the chat box if any stories are popping up for you right now of a moment. Sorry, real quick, I'm gonna pause because Nellie over here has a cute little girl. If you're not on the video, you're not seeing it, but I just saw the cutest little girl pop up on the video. Hello, little lady. Just waving at you. Sorry, y'all. I have shiny object syndrome. So just so you know, when I see a butterfly, my attention goes in a totally different direction. But coming back to it. So when you have enough energy going towards anything, you will attract that. So that's why I say it doesn't discriminate. Because now, if you also have energy towards something you love, enough of it, right? Emotion is energy in motion. You need a lot of it. Then you start attracting the things that you love. But here is where the suffering happens for most people. They get so focused on what they fear because they don't want it to happen again. They're so afraid of, I don't want to be in debt again. I don't want to lose my money again. I don't want to have my heart broken again. And unfortunately, what happens is they attract that again. And that's why I am saying, if you can now, which you already made a huge transition just by hearing these words. So I really commend you for taking the time to do this. But when you are in the awareness, that contrast, the thing that you don't want sometimes is what is giving you clarity and conviction. That's the game changer. Because now you can look at a situation that you don't like and have the strength to say, you know what, thank you, there's a gift here. Let me now get a lot more clarity on what I do want. That's where energy and motion, your conviction towards what you do want grows stronger. And see, people who've experienced a lot of contrast in their life, meaning people who've experienced a lot of hardships, heartache, that might be you, maybe times where you're really stressed out. That's why those are the stories that you hear as like the most monumental. I always like hearing the story of Oprah, where she's one of the richest women in the world now. Imagine that. an African American woman in the United States being one of the richest women in the world, there was a point in time where that whole sentence would not have even existed. And yet when you look back at her story, what happened to her? She grew up extremely poor at a time of segregation, and she was sexually and physically abused by people really close to her. Imagine that. The trauma, the amount of contrast, the horrible, horrible emotions that must have been felt by her on so many levels in her life. And yet, here she is now, for all intents and purposes, however you might define success, inspiring people, overflowing in abundance, living a life that she loves. Now, how and why? One of the patterns that I observed with her, and one of the patterns that I see in many uber successful individuals, and when I say uber successful, I'm really talking about not just affluence and wealth, I'm talking about people who are living a life that is fulfilling to them. And you always know when somebody's living a life that is fulfilling to them because you can feel it from them. You can feel their joy. You can feel their alignment. Not just looking at the Lamborghinis and the fancy houses and the vacations and all that. I mean, that stuff's nice, don't get me wrong, but you all know this story all too well. The rich, miserable person. Or the poor, miserable person. So what's important here is we're talking about emotion, because you could also be very poor and very happy and rich and very happy. So it's not about the money that we're talking about here. We're talking about fulfillment. We're talking about that feeling of being in alignment with who you are, feeling comfortable to be all of your truth and express that at all times. And so the pattern that I've seen with these uber successful individuals, meaning uber affluent, influential, and fulfilled, is that many of them have been in extremely contrasting moments of despair, of sadness, of depression, but they chose to use that as their platform to become clear on what they do want in life, and more importantly, to become convicted. So this is what I'm going to ask you all, is I want you to look at a moment in your life, a story that gave you a lot of contrast, something you didn't like. It was super uncomfortable for you. In fact, you could even use the word, it triggered you. And I want you to find the 3 gifts that moment gave you. So if you have a pen and paper, go ahead and write that down right now. Just write my contrasting moment and a colon. And then when you have time later on tonight or maybe tomorrow, but do it sooner rather than later, write down whatever that first story it is come to mind. You know, the conversation you had with that woman, the time you lost your job, that breakup, it's maybe something recent, somebody cut you off in traffic. It doesn't really matter. It just needs to be a moment you didn't like, that made you really uncomfortable, that triggered you. And then right under that, I want you to write the 3 gifts this moment gave me. And I want you to know it's not always going to be that easy to find the gifts. But I promise you it's worth it. Because if you can flex this muscle enough to never let an outside situation define your demise, but rather for it to become the platform for your rise, your whole life is going to just change in an instant. Because nothing is ever about the external condition. It is always about your disposition towards it. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that because I liked even what I said. Is that nothing is ever about the external condition, but rather your disposition towards it. Another way to put it is your perspective is more important than the situation. So if you can learn to find the gratitude, the gift in that moment of contrast, you've gotten your power back. And that's what we're really talking about here. Okay, so you say, Camille, now I found the gifts. What do I do next? Now I want you to write a list of 5 things. So below this, put the 5 things I do want. And so now that you have the contrasting moment and you have the 3 gifts it gave you, whatever those gifts you think might be, below that I want you to write 5 things you do want. And maybe you'll write more than 5. But when you can get onto a momentum of writing down the 5 things you want, You might more and more and more. What I want you to do is build the clarity and now the conviction of what you do want in your life, whether it is in relationships, whether it is in your business, whether it is in your marriage moving forward, whether it is in your health. It doesn't really matter, but it needs to be something you do want. And don't give yourself the realistic view, okay? Because you're going to get very tempted to say, yeah, Camille, you know, I want $500,000 this year, but that's not really possible. This is what I want you to do. Get rid of your but just for a second. I just want you to play with this. And I'll give you a little story. So on March 22nd, I did my most recent Living from Your Most Powerful Mindset workshop. And there was a woman at my workshop who had been wanting to see me live for a really long time. Very sweet. She is a single mother with a daughter and has been working in retail for over 27 years. And she loves her job because it really gave her the financial freedom and platform to raise her and her daughter and give them a good life. Now, little did I know, when she was at my workshop, she actually wanted to apply for a new job. She actually had a secondary dream job that she's always wanted to go for, but maybe never had the courage to talk about or even apply. So there was an exercise I called everyone to do at the workshop, which was just to write down what it is that you desire in this moment. Just whatever it is that you want, just write the sentence right now, no holds bar. And mind you, we had already been doing a lot of energetic movement. We had been interacting with one another. So emotions were quite high. For all intents and purposes, you could say that the vibration of the room was very amplified. And that's by design. So in her high vibrational state, she decides, you know what? I'm going to write down this dream. Now, I didn't know all this. I'm only able to tell you this story because she told it to me about a week and a half ago. And then recently, when I was on Facebook, I saw this same woman post that she was so excited to announce her new dream career at her dream company came true. And I almost couldn't believe it because I had just seen her. And I asked her, I said, so where are you working now? And with a gleam of excitement in her eyes, she told me, I had been wanting to work for Tesla for a really long time. And I applied and I got it. Literally right after your workshop, I wrote it down. I had never written down anything like this before. I just put it out into the universe and I got a call the next week and it was Tesla. And she got the job and she ended up retiring from her career of nearly 3 decades that she also loved. But now she's on this new adventure and she couldn't be more excited with her life. And then she said, I'm so excited and I just wanted to tell you and thank you because it was the first time that I ever wrote it down and it was at your workshop. And I thanked her back and I said, well, I thank you for showing up and playing full out. Because while I felt very honored to hold the space and the environment and the community for you to feel comfortable enough and convicted enough and clear enough to write this down, it was you who made that leap. Because honestly, if you didn't do it, it wouldn't have happened for you. And she said, yeah, but I was so excited in that moment. And I said, yeah, that's the point. Is again, excitement is energy in motion. That's the passion. That's the emotion. You always want to be on the brink of excitement with these things because if it doesn't excite you, it's probably not for you. That is a life of passion that you want to get to. So when she was telling me all about it, she had this enthusiasm in her voice, and now I'm seeing this crazy momentum in other parts of her life. She started working out, getting her health together, traveling, and just the posts that she's been doing lately on Facebook have been so positive and uplifting. And I don't think she's on the call tonight, but I do want to shout her out. She knows who she is, so she's hearing it. She's probably smiling. But this is an example for you all of when you can get really clear and in an environment of support and enthusiasm that gives you a strong foundation for whatever it is you desire without the but. Remove the but. It really is possible for you. Everything. And I know this because I've done it in my own life. Believe me, if you asked me 3 years ago today if I would be on this Zoom chat with almost 50 people or whatever it is we're going to get up to, being able to speak all around the world and help people get unstuck in their life, There was no way I could have told you I'd be doing this, only because I was stuck. I was on the bathroom floor crying my butt off, wondering what I was going to do next with my life. Even though I knew I had greatness inside of me, even though I knew I wanted to help the world and make a difference, I had no idea how to do that. So here is the key that I want to give you all, other than what I've just told you right now, is I run through this formula. And again, I find these formulas because I study patterns. I study patterns in myself, and I study patterns in other extremely successful individuals. So that many of you know a little bit of my background. I went to UC Berkeley, graduated in 2008, and I double majored in psychology and mass communications. So for me, understanding the human mind and the human psyche has always been something that has been fascinating to me. And mass media and mass communications is my own belief as an entrepreneur on the power of film, television, the internet, you name it, to convey a message so powerfully so as to inspire people. That has been a huge mission in my life. So I get to do that day in and day out. But for the past 10 years, I have been working with entrepreneurs and small business owners and just the most incredible visionaries. And I've always been the right-hand woman to them. And I got dubbed the quote-unquote CEO whisperer because I could see the patterns of where people would get stuck. And so what I help them do is to get unstuck, because I know they feel the greatness within them, but sometimes we have just created these subconscious self-limiting beliefs that have been patterns in our life, conditionings based off of how you grew up culturally, what your mom and dad's relationship was like, perhaps the economic situation you've been in most of your life. They're just patterns of conditioning. But here's the beauty. It's not your truest nature. Why is that important? Because you can recondition at any moment in time. But then you ask, so Camille, what's my truest nature? Let me put it to you this way. When you see a little kid, so Nellie, it looks like your daughter was on here, Jacqueline, right? Nellie's nodding right now. You know what, Nellie, if you don't mind, I'm going to unmute you just real quick so you and I can kind of go back and forth. Hi, Nellie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. So that was Jacqueline on the video right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you don't mind, I just wanted to ask you a couple questions. How old is Jacqueline?
She'll be 5 in June.
She'll be 5.
4.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So when you see Jacqueline, when she comes into the room, when this beautiful 5-year-old comes in, what do you see? What are some of the first emotions that come up when you see your daughter?
I just see joy, happiness, pureness, laughter.
Sure, sure. And when Jacqueline is excited about something and you're hearing her talk about it, what do you see in her character? What do you see in her personality?
I just see confidence, no care in the world. Everything's perfect. I just see a happy kid.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Now, I want you to kind of use your imagination with me just for a moment. Okay. I know this is not true, but just stick with me as a mother and as a parent. But now let's say Jacqueline were to walk into the room and come up to you and say, you know what, Mommy, I kind of don't like myself. I don't think I'm smart enough. All the kids in school have cooler stuff than me. I'm not as big as them.
Yeah.
If you heard your daughter say that to you, how would you react?
It would hurt me.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah, I can see it even in your face right now and hear it in your voice, right? Your heart's hurting a little bit. Just even imagining it.
Yeah.
Why would that hurt you? Like, what are the first thoughts that run through your mind when you hear her say something?
It's not true. It's not true. And it would hurt me because if she's feeling that way, it's something that I can't remove that pain from her. And it's like, how do you change that? How do you help her through that?
Right.
So,
it's almost like you feel helpless in a way.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
And so the reason I'm mentioning all of this, is because often that's what every single one of us does to ourselves on a daily basis, right? Let's say your most natural state is exactly who Jacqueline is right now, which is, like you said, when she walks into the room, it's joy, it's confidence, it's fun, it's play, it's excitement. It is no care in the world. There's no buts. in her sentence, right? That's your natural state. But often what we do then is we go into that secondary state that I had you go with me, which is, but I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. Something's wrong with me. All these other people have more money than I do. They have cooler stuff. They're better. So I can imagine if, let's say, spirit, source, that which some people might call God, the divine nature, our higher self, whatever you call it, that works for you, that's fine. But let's say that was our quote unquote parent. Our higher self is like our parent looking down at us like, you are pure joy. You are pure fun. You are pure play. You are exciting. There is no limit to what you can accomplish. And I got you. I got your back, but you've got to trust me. But here we are beating ourselves up day in and day out, conditioning our minds and conditioning each other to think that you're not good enough. You don't have enough resources. But you as a parent are thinking like, that is so not true. That was the first words that came out of your mouth, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I thank you for kind of rolling with me in this moment. But I wanted to have Nellie come on here. And since Jacqueline came into the picture, she came into the video, which was perfect. I wanted you all to get an idea, a physical feeling of what you do, what you might be doing day in and day out, and why it's not your truest nature. Your truest nature is that little kid that you see running around without a care in the world. And sometimes it's hard for us to see ourselves that way. So if any of you have children who are on this call, then see your child as a reflection of yourself. And if you wouldn't talk to a child that way, you've got to stop talking to yourself that way.
That's true.
Thank you, Nellie. Nellie, I'm going to mute you just for a second, but I'll come back to you.
Yes, ma'am.
So with that said, that's what I mean by your truest nature. What Nellie as a mother, as a parent sees in her kid, it's the same thing in you. You were a little kid at one point. You were little Jacqueline. You were little Jack. You were little Krisha, little Hector, little Elisa, little Richard, little Aaron, little Richard. That's so funny. Richard Wilkinson, you're on here, so I just got that right now. Little Norman, little Mark, little Joe, little Rena, whoever is on this call, little Maria, little Dave, that kid, that's your truest essence. All of this work that we are doing together is an unlearning, because you've got to unlearn some of these negative patterns that have been holding you back. These buts that you put in the way, these comparisons you've made to other people, because it doesn't matter. Your truest power is when you go back to that person and you have unlimited joy again, unlimited excitement. But then you say, Camille, yeah, but a lot of stuff has happened to me in my life that's caused me not to be excited anymore. That I've endured too much heartache. I've gone through too much to even have that level of passion. I don't even have clarity anymore. Perfect. Because like I said in the beginning, this contrast, those things you went through were to help you get clarity, were to help you become convicted. And if you're on this call right now, there's obviously something in your life. There's a greatness within it that you know lies deep within you. And you know it's time to unleash it. You know that it's time to get to the next level of who you are, to expand into it, and honestly, to go back home to your truest nature, that little kid. How many times have you ever experienced a relationship, a job, a situation in life, a decision you made where when you didn't feel good about it, when you didn't feel aligned to it, your whole chest and heart just like closed up? You knew immediately, oh, this does not feel good, almost to the point where you want to throw up. And then in contrast to that, you also know when you've been in the right environment with the right people at the right time, it's like your whole world just lightens up. You light up. You're like, this feels so good. I'm so excited to be here. People love me. They accept me. I accept myself. I love myself. It feels good. It feels aligned. That is the flow that I'm talking about. Our job together, the reason that I created the ultimate life, and that's why I spell it LYFE, because it's live your fullest every day, which is to live from that place of fulfillment. Too many of us are running on empty. But how do you get to full again? You find alignment. How do you find alignment? Look for the things that bring you joy. How do you know what brings you joy? look at the things that you didn't like, the things that didn't bring you joy, and write the opposite. Because when you know what you don't want, you will figure out what you do want. That's why this list that I'm having you make is super crucial. Because when you want to find out where you're stuck and why you're stuck, you've got to get clear first on what you do want. Then I can help you move forward. Then you can help yourself move forward. Then you can be in an environment of people that move you forward. Because it wasn't until the moment that I was so unhappy, the place of total contrast, that I got my clarity and my conviction. So here is 2 suggestions on how to live your fullest sense of self and come into alignment that I wanted to give you before we get into just a few questions, okay? So number 1, it's what I call there is power in the pause. There is power in the pause. Any moment where you're having to make a really important decision, pause. Take 3 deep breaths in through your nose. Exhale out through your mouth. And do that for at least 30 seconds. 30 seconds. If you say, Camille, I don't have 30 seconds, fine. Take 3 seconds. But you always have that moment of breath. Why is that breath so important? Because in our brain, we are hardwired to react from ego. We are hardwired to react from fear. Remember, we have a 2 million year old Neanderthal brain that is still running from the saber-toothed tiger. So we are constantly looking for things to be afraid of, to react to. But as a leader of love, and this is what I train, to build yourself as a leader of love, you must learn to respond. It's kind of like being a ninja or, a superhero. You never see the superheroes completely frantic and rushing and reacting to everything. They have a refrain, they have a pause, they have a breath to respond to the moment. So understand your power is in the pause. For a lot of people, there's a Christian scripture or something from the Bible called "Be still and know that I am the divine." And I forgot who it was. I believe it was Ram Dass. He talks about the power is in the stillness. You hear a lot of Buddhists and meditative folks talk about when you are in stillness, that is when the divine download comes to you. We are using the same universal wisdom technique there, but not enough people practice stillness. Why? Because we're so used to responding to everything. You get a text, respond. You get an Instagram message, respond. You get a Facebook ding, respond. But I need you to start responding to yourself first and asking yourself, does this even feel right for me? Do I even want to respond to this person? Do I even want to have this conversation right now? If it doesn't feel good to you, take a moment to stop and not do it. You do not owe anyone anything, but you do owe yourself a moment to fill up so you can serve the other person from overflow, not emptiness. And why is that important? Because the minute you start serving other people in emptiness, you grow resentful, you grow frustrated, you grow irritated, you grow angry. Why do I know this? Because as a recovering people pleaser, I did that way too often. The people I loved the most were the people I was starting to resent. Not because they were asking me for a lot, not because they were being mean and selfish and rude, but because I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't taking time for me to fill up. And the way you fill up is to pause. Start flexing that muscle of taking a breath before any major decision. There is a level of respect that people will begin to give you. There is a level of integrity in all the decisions that you make. And there is a level of creativity that will flow forth from you when you can learn to pause. And like I said, the pause doesn't have to be long. It could be 3 breaths, but it's such a different muscle you begin to flex when you can slow things down. It was Mahatma Gandhi that would say, there is more to life than increasing its speed. There is more to life than increasing its speed. And I very much live by that mantra now. And actually, you will begin to go a lot faster and further with less effort when you learn to pause. And I'll do a whole different section on that some other time on what techniques I use to pause, one of which is a self-retreat. And I've talked about it before on Facebook, but if you want to learn more about that, I'm going to send an email out after this call with our recording and how you can learn more about how I do my own self-retreats in pausing. The second piece I wanted to give you is this is more of how you take action. And one of the mantras that I abide by, whenever you decide, okay, now I've paused, I've got my mindset right, how do I take action moving forward, Camille? Here is the key. Go where you are guided. When you take action, go where you are guided. And how do you know where you're guided? You'll feel it. But this is why I say you have to pause first, because if you don't even take the pause, you won't even be able to feel where you're guided. And here's the difference between getting pushed towards something and getting pulled towards something. When I say go where you're guided, this is coming from a place of inspiration. Inspiration comes from the Latin word to be in spirit, meaning you are getting pulled towards something. Whereas motivation, which is also important, is getting pushed towards something. You know, that's when you hear people say like, do your best, get up, get it done, push, 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 push. And that's good, because sometimes you need that energy. Like I said, you want to create that momentum, you want to create that conviction, that passion, that energy and motion to get it done. But motivation can only last for so long, which is why you can choose to do it every day, which is great, but it's so much easier to get pulled by something than it is to just get pushed all the time. So how do you get pulled by something? Well, being pulled by something means you are inspired. Great artists know this. When you're a musician, when you're a painter, when you're an actor, when you're an actress, it's a thing that comes out of you that when you hear, oh, I'm just so inspired to draw this, I'm so inspired to make this, I'm so inspired to talk about this right now. You'll always know when it's inspired because number one, you feel full when it comes to you. And number two, it comes out easily and effortlessly. It's the thing that you do automatically. Sometimes for some of you, it may be the thing you do that you would do for free because you don't even want to get paid for it. It just feels so good because you feel so full. That's when you know you're getting pulled towards something. So it's the same thing when I say, go where you're guided, go towards what's pulling you right now. There are going to be moments where it doesn't make any sense logistically. Well, Camille, I can't take this job right now. Like, I got to do this, this, and this. Or why would I make a left turn? Waze is telling me to take a right turn. Sometimes that could be as simple as it is. But if you are getting guidance, and you always know when it's guidance because it's a whisper. It's a really soft calling towards you. It's never going to be a loud yell. It's not going to be something that comes at you and is like, no, don't do this or do that. It doesn't feel like that. Inspiration will always feel like a gentle pull, a gentle tug, and it probably will make you smile a little bit. It gives you this little excitement, even if you don't want to admit that to yourself. And how you know it's inspiration, you will feel it in your physical body, usually in your chest or in your stomach. In your stomach, it might feel like butterflies or bubbles. In your chest, it'll feel like openness. But inspiration doesn't come from your mind. Logic and reasoning will come from your mind. So I just wanted to give you all that physical placement. So when you're taking action, ask yourself, does this feel good to me right now? Is this really where I'm being guided to go? Or am I just thinking that's what I'm supposed to do? So always ask yourself that question. Because if you can just combine those two things, a 3-second pause before any movement, and then checking in with yourself to say, is this where I'm being guided? That makes the biggest difference between living a life that is full and one that is just full of stuff. It's very different. You can have a life that feels fulfilling to you, or a life that is just full of obligations and scheduling and things that you got to keep up with, and one that just feels really flowing and good and exciting. Now, why is this really important? Because in any entrepreneur I've ever worked with, in any leader and any CEO, the minute that they would have a dip in their business, the minute that, unfortunately, they would get stolen from, or the minute that they'd start to get stuck and their relationship would fall apart, is when they stopped doing these main things. When they stopped pausing, or when they stopped going where they were guided, or when they stopped taking care of themselves. Then they got the pressure of, it's supposed to be this way. I think I have to do this. Or maybe everyone's expecting this of me, so I'll just go in that direction. See, there is a reason that you are the leader that you are. There's a reason that you have the gifts that you have, but if you don't take the time to tune into that, you'll go in every direction that everybody else wants you to go in. And Jim Rohn, who is actually Tony Robbins' mentor and coach, would always say that if you don't plan your life, somebody else will plan it for you. And to be quite honest, what they have planned for you is not much, because they're just going to ask you to do things on their behalf that benefits them. Even if it's in your quote unquote best interest, or so they say so, it's always from their perspective. So what we are training together in this community of not only inspired individuals, but truly, even more specifically, leaders of love, is tapping back into yourself. And what are the measured steps to do so? And that's what I do on a weekly basis with my particular group. That's what I do quarterly in these live workshop experiences that hopefully I'll get to see one of you all at. And of course, if you're an entrepreneur or CEO and you need more defined guidance, that's the one-to-one work, right? But this group coaching call is just an example of what I do with my group and how I hope it might serve you today too, even if it's to just get you on a new wavelength of thinking. Because just in this moment alone, look, we've only been on this call for 45 minutes or so. The amount of neurological shifting that's already happened now might be more than some people do in a month. Just because you've allowed yourself to be in this high vibrational environment of individuals and you've challenged yourself to go deep. This is where the change occurred for me, when I finally decided to invest in myself and go deep. Then the return on investment for me was tenfold. Because anytime you put money towards yourself, that's when the return comes. I mean, put it this way. We put money towards Starbucks, the gym membership, products, and other people all day. We are making a lot of other people very wealthy. And that's great. I'm glad that we're contributing to society in that way, because we're all connected. But instead of you being a consumer, I really want you to shift to being an investor. And if there's anything you're going to invest in yourself first. Whether that's your health, whether that's your self-care, whether that's your coach, because the learning never stops. That has been the thing that has taken me from 0 to 100 in a really short period of time. And because of the way that I grew up, so for most of you who don't know, I grew up in a Filipino family. My mother's side is German, Jewish, Filipino. My father's side is predominantly Spanish, Filipino. But in the Philippine community, family is a big thing. Community is a big thing. So being together all the time is a big thing. And why is it important? Well, it adds to our benefit, health-wise, adds to our happiness. We get together more often. It's just got that community feel. And so the psychology of that is the same here. I wanted to create a family community feel of leaders of love, people who are choosing to live the highest, fullest expression of themselves all the time. Why? Because we experience it day in and day out of people living the worst expressions of themselves all the time. People who are murdering, people who are abusing, people who are slandering against one another, people who are constantly negative Nellies, people who are putting you down. It's time to stop all of that. But the way that you do it is not by fighting it. The way you do it is by being the example of it. You teach by the clarity of your example. So while it is good to voice your opinion, while it is good to say that, people should do this and should do that, and we need to have more peace in the world, well, then it must start with you. And that's why for me, I had to be my first client before I could coach anybody else. I wanted to walk my talk. And believe me, I am still learning the things that I teach and teaching the things that I learn. This is a nonstop process as an entrepreneur, as an artist, as a speaker, as a lover of life. I am constantly going through everything that I share with you all on a weekly basis. So what I'm here to do is to give an open forum for a couple of people right now who'd like to ask their own personal questions of maybe how do you get to the next level, or what are you struggling with right now? Because I really do believe in real life examples of, let's not just talk about the theory, but let's actually dive into it and get you to a higher vibrational state. Let's get you into a higher emotional state so you can make those things happen for yourself. But more importantly, so that you feel the joy of your life again, or more fully. Because when you do that, that's how you serve other people. That's how you make that difference. That's how you create the world that you want your young daughters and your young sons, or Jacqueline. When you talk about, oh, I wish that they could live in a better world and I want her to always feel like she is the best version of herself, then you lead by example. We cannot continue to try to give our kids everything, try to give our family everything, and we are not experiencing all of that too. Because you see it all the time. Why am I going to take quote unquote advice from somebody who I don't even see them living that out? They might be a good marketer, but they're not necessarily walking the talk. So it's the same with you. There's a lot of people who are watching you day in and day out. You might have employees, you might have clients, you might have children, you might have friends, family, community that are looking to you as a leader of love. So what example are you leading with? And that's a question I would love for you to actually write down for yourself. What do I want people to see in me and feel from me? If you could write down 3 characteristics, what do I want people to see in me and feel from me? I'd love to hear about that. You're welcome to email me as well what those 3 characteristics are for you. You have my email address if you've gotten this email to join today. So what is it that you want people to see from you and feel from you? So I know that was a lot, so do me a favor. If you're on the call right now, take a deep breath in. Exhale out. Do your own pause. And definitely drink water or hydrate. In a lot of these talks, in a lot of these moments, you will be moving a lot of emotions and energy, whether you know it or not. With that said, what will happen is you will become dehydrated because you're actually having cellular change in your body. So if you start to feel thirsty, I highly suggest definitely drink a lot of water. And if you get super hungry after this, go eat something because it's very common for that to happen. But what I want to do is I'm going to open up the phone lines to 2 people right now who are also on the Zoom chat to ask questions. And then I'm going to read some stuff on the chat room. So let me do that. Let me just read some stuff from the chat room real quick. Krisha, oh, she put that she's definitely has had that feeling. Thanks for your vulnerability. You're welcome, girl. And I think Krisha was talking about when I mentioned my story of kind of hitting my own emotional rock bottom. I've had many, but that's the most recent one that really launched me into this work. So thank you, Krisha, for also sharing that you know what that feels like. Quick side note for anybody who wants to coach someone, to help someone, to consult for someone, or to lead anyone. The most wonderful words in the human language, in the English language at least, that people want to hear, if in fact it is true, are these things. And I've noticed it only because I've said it a couple times, is that I see you and I understand how you feel. When people feel that connection from you, whether you've been through it yourself or you just simply understand how they feel, there is no greater comfort to another human being than to know that they're not alone. Because aloneness is an illusion. We are all connected at all times, but too often people get lonely because we think we're the only one who's ever gone through this. So my encouragement to you is if you have a story or an experience that you're willing to share, you will be shocked at how many other people have the exact same story. So just know you have a safe space here to do so, because in your sharing is our healing and vice versa. Erin, you put here, I also felt like I had a big life change 3 years ago when I had a breakup, switched careers, was a people pleaser, and did everything. That's awesome. I appreciated hearing your story. Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I had no idea you were going through this. Isn't that interesting that there were similar patterns? And I may have to do another call on this, but what that phenomenon actually is, Erin, so that's called sympathetic resonance. The reason that you've been attracted to this work, and you could look that up, anybody who's on this call, definitely look up sympathetic resonance. The short of it is this. In physics, if I were to put two pianos in 2 separate rooms, I have piano A in one room and piano B in another, and I hit the C key on piano A, the C key string on piano B will actually vibrate. even though it's completely in a different room. So imagine that. I have one piano in one room and I hit the C key on there, and me hitting the C key on that piano will cause the C key string on the other piano to vibrate. In physics, that's called sympathetic resonance. And the reason that's important right now is because everything is energy, everything is vibration. So when you walk into a space, when you meet somebody and you all are vibrating at a similar wavelength or at a similar level, you resonate with that person or with that message. It's not something you see, but it's something you experience. It's something that you feel. So that's why I want to say, be sure that you're paying attention to your emotions, because any environment you walk into, anybody you listen to, you'll know, I don't know, I feel it. I vibe with it. I resonate with it. We don't even have a word, but we know that it works. You both are on the same C key. So Erin, it could be similar, that when you see me talk, perhaps when you come onto these calls, you're like, I don't know what it is, but I resonate with that message. The C key is lined up. That is an energetic statement. And when you can learn to master that, you will always gravitate towards and avoid what is meant for you. So you guys can look up sympathetic resonance. It's a really cool phenomenon in quantum physics. Nellie Perez put, wow, I feel like we all go through the days feeling the same way. Absolutely. Rena, yeah, girl, preach it. That's my girl, Rena. Maria, you also have shiny object syndrome. Perfect. I think great thinkers also have that. So we have one question from Nellie, which I'd love to get to right now. How do I keep motivated to keep going to actually lose the weight? I'm so happy with my weight. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so unhappy with my weight. I talk bad about myself, and thank you for making me see it through my daughter. That's amazing. Well, first of all, Nellie, I know you're on the call right now, so I'm going to unmute you. And I just want to thank you for being so open and vulnerable, because I know, especially when it comes to health and weight, particularly for women, this can be a really sensitive subject. So for you, what is it that you really want? You mentioned here you want to keep motivated to actually lose the weight. Is that right?
Right. So I've done different things. I'm always looking for a way to lose the weight finally. Mm-hmm. And then things happen and I say, okay, well, I'm too busy with work, and I put everything else in front of me.
Sure.
And so everything that you talked about today, invest in yourself. And what 3 things do you want people to see from, when they meet me? Mm-hmm. That's all resonating with me right now. And those are things that I need to do and then stay motivated. So I feel like I start doing really well. I start losing inches. I'm excited. I get happy. I'm like, oh, okay, date night. And I actually look good. I have to change 3 times.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I don't know. I feel like if I have one cheat night or this or that, I just feel bad, and I just continue the bad habits.
Sure. So
just trying to stay motivated. And, I feel like when in my line of work as a realtor, I feel like people look at that and, you're going up and down stairs, you're huffing and puffing, and you're like, okay, this is not good. Like, I should be able to go up and down stairs and not be out of breath.
Yeah.
And I know everything that I need to do. I just don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. So first of all, if you don't mind, did you write down those 3 things you want people to see or feel from you?
Yes.
Are you comfortable sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I want them to see a confident woman that knows what she's doing and feels confident inside and out. And I also feel like people, like, I can act that way, but truly I'm not inside. I can act. It's all an act. And then I get home and I'm like, oh, I take off that, whatever was like super tight and, trying to make me look a few inches smaller. So I can act. And I just want to be that person day in and day out. Wake up and be that person. Be who I know I can be, the potential. Mm-hmm. I know the potential. I know what I used to be. Mm-hmm. And I had the 10-pound babies. And now I just have not been able to get back there. And I don't want to go the rest of my 30s into my 40s and 50s feeling that way. I just want to start living.
Correct.
And so I feel like I'm acting. So I want that. I want the confidence, and I want it 24/7. And I just want people to see a genuine person, a lively person. And I don't want for me to be in the moment and still thinking in the background, okay, but I look horrible, or I caught a glimpse in the mirror and I hate the way I look, and it just kind of depresses my mood. I don't want that. So those are the three things I wrote down, basically: feeling confident 24/7, having that energy and happiness, and I want people to see that through me, and obviously, give it to my daughters as well. Make sure that they see that in me.
Leader for daughter. Okay. So a couple things come up as you're talking. Number one is I love what you said here. I'm not living, I'm acting, right?
Yes.
That was a really powerful statement, and I really felt that from you. So one thing I will say is that you're not completely acting. And what I mean by that is because deep, deep down inside, you are that confident woman. You know that. Because I'll give you an example. If I were to tell you right now that somebody you love dearly is extremely sick and they need to have a surgery tomorrow, and that surgery is going to cost $85,000. But if you don't come up with that money, they will probably perish. Now, will you come up with that money?
I will.
Right. Do you even know
I will
how?
do everything to come up with it. I will do whatever.
Yeah. And see,
I'll figure it out.
you'll figure it out, right? You don't know all the details, but it doesn't matter. You will just find a way.
Right.
There's no way on your dime, on your clock, that person you love, whether it's your daughter, your husband, whoever, is going to go down. Not on your watch.
Correct.
Right. So isn't it interesting that in that moment, you didn't need all the details. You just needed the right reason to do it.
Yeah.
You didn't even flinch when you looked at me right now and answered that question. That woman came out. That lioness, she's there. She's in there. So that's why I want to point out that you're not really acting. What you're actually doing is you're uncovering. You're uncovering your truest sense of self. So what you're talking about is there's a mask that you are wearing that maybe you just got used to, your ego, some thoughts about you, but it's not that deep, because your truest self is really that confident woman. The second piece you talked about is energy and happiness, right? And you said you wanted to feel it 24/7. Now, in an ideal world, right? Of course, we all want to feel that 24/7. However, I will say that if there is a need to feel it 24/7, usually that is also tied together with the fear of the moment I don't feel it 24/7, I'm going to be something else, right? Because we all know that in life, there's ebb and flow. And that's why I say you're going to have contrast, because it's nice to have the sunny days, but to be honest, if it was sunny all the time and we never got a cloud, or if we never got some rain or some, darkness, we can't really appreciate that light.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it's not really about, I've got to feel this way all the time, every single moment. But it's more about not fearing that when you don't feel it, that you've done something wrong. So just something I want to bring to your attention is especially when it comes to weight, a lot of this is just wrapped around shame. There is a shame that I didn't do something. There's a shame that I fell short. There's a shame that I let go. There's a shame that I'm not the best I could possibly be. So what's wrong with me? And then we spiral down, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I can feel it from you right now that's hitting a point, seems like, right? Okay.
Yes.
Good. And I'm doing that not to make you uncomfortable, but just to get you to that point of contrast, like I said, that now that you know it, I don't want to feel this.
Yes.
Just like with Jacqueline, there will be moments in her life where she might get a bad grade, or she didn't make the soccer team, or, she messed up on the dance move, and she's going to feel a lot of shame. And then she's going to look to you as the example to say, like, I'm really bad, aren't I? And then your first response is going to be like, no, you just made a mistake. You know what I like to tell people is like, imagine when Jacqueline was a little girl and she was learning how to walk, right? Now she got up and then she walked and then she stumbled and fell. And when she stumbled and fell, you didn't look at her and say, hey, little dummy, get back up. You knew she was going to stumble and fall. That's part of the process. That's what's going to build her character to say like, okay, now you get up again and you keep moving.
Yeah.
And after X amount of weeks, months, now years, she's walking and running all over the place, and you kind of wish she was crawling again. So you have to chase her around everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with us emotionally. As you flex your muscle now to move past the shame, to move past this thinking that you're acting. You may stumble and fall a couple times. Confidence is not going to be there 24/7, but it doesn't mean you're bad or that you did something wrong, or walking is something you should fear, or that this work of building your confidence again and coming back to that place is something you should fear. It's just a muscle. You are practicing again.
Okay.
And you may fall a couple times, but that's not a judgment on you. But it doesn't mean you don't get back up and start trying again.
Okay.
But even with the weight loss, so what? You've done a couple things, it didn't work out, fell out, okay, got up, tried again. But it's the shame that you might be holding on to that's really frustrating you, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And it's
You're
okay.
right.
So how do we break the pattern of shame? And this is what I would like you to just think about, maybe even write about a little bit, and then you can contact me directly and I can help you kind of get some clarity.
Thank
But
you.
now instead of motivating yourself, because remember we talked about motivation versus inspiration, because now you're kind of pushing yourself to get it done. Like you said, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I should do, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But you did it enough where you were like, but I did it enough a couple times that it felt good. I lost a couple inches, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's motivation. But that's why I say motivation is only a small part.
Okay.
Because unless you want to push all day, every day, then you'll probably fall off the wheel. So this is where I want you to switch into inspiration. And how do you switch into inspiration with weight loss? Very simple. Write down activities or things that bring you joy. So for example, let's say you think about, ooh, I've always wanted to try a hip hop class, a salsa class, a Zumba class, a kickboxing class. And you'll know when it's something for you, because inside of you, you'll go, oh yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Just write those things down first. And I don't want you to go and do them yet. I just want you to get into the momentum of designing your own health plan, the things that inspire you. Because if you're also not excited to do it, that motivation, unless you're super pusher and being a mom and being a real estate entrepreneur, you've got enough people pushing you. So
Yeah.
the last thing you need is another right thing to push for. Instead, I want you to feel pulled towards it, that when you go a day without it, you're like, oh man, I missed my yoga class. Oh man, I missed my hip hop class. Oh man, I can't wait to meet up this boot camp group again. Like I feel so good and excited. You look forward to it is essentially what I'm saying.
Okay.
And so just write down maybe 3 to 5 things
Okay.
that you feel inspired by. And like I said, you'll always know when you feel inspired by it because you're drawn towards it. It feels good to you.
Okay.
Because especially when it comes to weight loss, there is no right or wrong way. We all know this. There's 1,000,001 workout programs there in the world.
Right.
And especially here in the United States, I'll give you an example. You can't walk or drive more than 5 blocks, especially in California, without finding a gym or without some sort of yoga studio, right? And yet, we are the most obese and overweight country in the world. Is it because we have a lack of resources of weight loss programs? No, not at all. But it's because we're not given the right tools emotionally to sustain ourselves. Because most of us are just trying to do the things that we're marketed towards. So what I would love for you to do, since we have so many resources, is do the things that you love, and then we can figure out the strategy.
Okay.
But if you're not even picking that which inspires you, and look, it may ebb and flow, Nelly. There may be 6 months where you're like, woo, kickboxing, love it. And then after that, you're like, kind of tired of it. Want to try something new? No shame in that. Try something new. It's your body, it's your health, it's your life. But instead of just pushing for motivation, because it will only last for so long, find the thing that pulls you. Find the thing you enjoy doing, because if you don't also enjoy this journey of yourself to greater health and greater vitality, then it will always feel like a failed project. It'll always feel like another thing I couldn't accomplish fully.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because then the secondary piece of this is when Jacqueline sees you enjoying yourself, being happy again, feeling sexy and full and free and all these beautiful things, then she'll pursue the exact same things for herself. She'll say, oh, mommy, I want to join you. Or, hey, I want to do this too. Because this is the one piece that I'd like to give everybody who ever listens, is your energy will introduce you before your words ever do. And what that means is, especially with kids, they're susceptible to energy. So you could tell them that you love them, that you believe in them, that they're the most amazing things in the world, but they can feel it from you when you're not emotionally there.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't feel that for yourself. It's kind of going to be like, they'll call you out on your truth sometimes. And that's the beauty of them, right?
Yes.
And it's the same thing as like, instead of you feeling like, oh, I'm pretending to be confident, I'm pretending to be all these things, what you're actually saying is like, I know the energy I'm giving off and it's not matching the words that I'm saying.
Yeah.
So in order for you to get into full alignment, which really is your true self, it's that woman who I said will find the $85,000 overnight if she has to.
Yeah.
That woman, she is calling for you to find the thing that brings you joy again, to write it out and to not be afraid of it, because there is no shame in this process.
That's true.
So I would love for you to just take on that exercise, write the things that you're like, okay, this is calling to me right now. Like I said, go where you're guided. Take some time, maybe even 5 minutes after the call, just to do that. And then if you would like some feedback on how to actually implement that, you're welcome to email me for it.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're so welcome. I mean, is this resonating with you? Is this connecting?
It is, and I've been thinking about it. I'm going to start by being, there's things I've already had in my head. I just need to go out and do it.
Yeah.
And earlier when you were talking about investing in yourself, it just kind of hit home. It's like, okay, you're right. I invest in everybody else except for me.
Yes.
And so I think it's given me the permission, and it sounds weird because obviously I have the permission, but it just made sense. Like, okay, invest in yourself first and then go about your day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start doing that.
Mm-hmm. And what I will, perfect. Because what I will do is I'll send you all to some of my morning, affirmations and rhythms that I have, because how you start your day is going to definitely set the tone for the rest of your day. So that's been a beautiful practice for me, is just finding these things that inspire me in the morning. And I don't even jump into work right away. I let my self-care be first. So just remember, massive service requires massive self-care. So just as much as you're devoting to your business and your family, I would love for you to devote that to yourself, because then you show up with them completely differently. I mean, it'll be incredible how much you overflow with ease because you're really filled up. But especially with feminine energy and especially with women, I completely understand. We don't have the conditioning to take care of ourselves. We think that we have to be suffering providers in order to make it work. But that is not the truth whatsoever. That's why permission to most women is actually what we need, but it's permission to give ourselves. Yeah. So if you need to hear it from another woman, you have permission to do whatever it is that you want to do, but definitely write it down. And like I said, if you would like the feedback of strategy on how to move forward with that, then email it to me.
Okay.
And we could actually lay out a plan for you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome, Nelly. I'm going to throw you on mute just in a second. Mm-hmm. I just want to go real quick to a question on the box. Oh, actually, it's a comment. Krisha, sending you lots of love and support, Nelly. Your act of sharing and what came from it has impacted me in such a positive way. There you go, Nelly. See, look at you. You're already spreading inspiration, and all you have to do is share your story. See, in the sharing of our experience, we heal one another, which I really, really love. All right, so let's go to, who do we have here? How about Mark? Mark, let's unmute you. Hi, Mark. How you doing, love?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Did you have a question, hon?
No, I'm just been listening to what you guys been talking about.
Okay.
Just been taking notes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I'm just trying to answer the questions. What's best for me? Like, what do I want people to see or feel for me?
Okay.
Trying to find out activities. I'm trying to figure out, like, what do I expect people the most see for me or feel for me.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, how would like my friends would perceive me into a much better person and all that. So and you said like emotion is energy in motion.
Mm-hmm.
intriguing. And it doesn't discriminate between fear and love, you said?
Yes, correct. Well, Mark, real quick, I want to jump in just because, okay, when I said energy, emotion is energy in motion, I just want to speak to anyone in this room who really identifies with masculine energy. So let me make a clarification real quick. When I talk about masculine and feminine energy, I'm not talking about gender here. I'm not really talking about men or women, because all of us have both energies within us. We all have masculine energy, which is strategic, hierarchical, focused, strong, confident, centered. That's like our masculine energy. And then a lot of us have, and all of us have, have feminine energy, which is what? Creativity, openness, compassion, love, collaborative togetherness, right? That's feminine energy, play. Those are all energies we all have. But you will have a core energy that is more dominant within you. And what I see is many men will have a core masculine energy. It's your desire to protect. It's your desire to provide. It's your desire to be the hero in the situation, for example, right? Now, I bring this up because one of the ways that many men or people who identify a lot with masculine energy need to feel things in life is by moving. You need physical movement. That's why I said emotion is energy in motion. That you need physical movement in your life to move forward, to move your emotions of negativity, of anger, of frustration out. So that's why I always encourage, whenever I work with very heavy masculine energy individuals, is go for a run, go for a walk, take a boxing class, do something that requires physical movement, because your physiology will overcome your psychology. So meaning, if you're feeling really frustrated in a moment, Mark, if you're feeling really depressed, if you're feeling really lonely, one of the fastest ways to get out of that is to do something physical. Go for a run, go work out, move your body, dance, anything. You know, get a punching bag, you know, like a body bag, and start punching it. But you have to move the emotion, physically move it out of your body so you feel stronger and centered again. Very important. When I work with, for example, real estate professionals, when they're on their sales calls, or they're about to call somebody or a client and they're feeling really low energy, I tell them, make your call standing up. So literally, stand up during your call, go outside and walk. If you're gonna have a tough conversation with somebody and you're feeling a lot of negative emotion, have that conversation outdoors so you can move, so you can express yourself. Because emotion, sometimes, if you're constantly just keeping it inside and you're not moving your physical body, it can become heavy. And how you know that is, for example, if I were to tell you all right now to close your eyes and just envision what somebody who is sad or depressed looks like. So even with your eyes closed, if I told you nothing about this person and I just said they are really sad, they are very depressed, do you think that they are standing upright or are they hunched over? Hunched over, right? Are they breathing really deep or are they breathing really shallow?
Shallow.
Shallow. Are they talking really loudly or really softly?
Softly.
Are they moving quickly or are they moving slowly?
Very slowly.
See, isn't it interesting that I didn't even describe this person to you, and intuitively everybody on this call, and because I could see some of you mouthing the responses, you all had the same unanimous response. You know what somebody who is low energy looks like. You know how they are physically moving. You know how they are breathing. You even know how they're speaking. So imagine how many times we do that unconsciously. We're talking to somebody and we're slumped over. We're breathing really shallow. We talk really, really softly without confidence. So how do you counteract that? What Nelly just did right now. You roll your shoulders back. You stand up tall. You breathe deep. And you move. Even if you have to run or walk fast, because your body will also affect your emotions. There's a really great TED Talk that I would love for all of you to look up if you have time. It's by Amy Cuddy. It's called Your Body Language Shapes Your Emotions or Shapes Your Mentality, but it's about how body language shapes you. So again, you can look it up. It's on Google. Amy Cuddy, Cuddy, body language. And it Research and scientific studies have shown that when people stand in what they call the Superman pose, or for women, the Wonder Woman pose, for X amount of minutes, and you hold your head up high and you put your shoulders back, even if you say nothing, the level of endorphins in your body increases and your level of confidence shoots up. So for a lot of high-powered CEOs and leaders, they will do the Superwoman or Superman pose and hold that for X amount of minutes before a meeting. And the minute they walk into that meeting, energy shifts. Everything around them changes. Because you physically have to move your body to convince your mind sometimes that this is what you want. So Mark, when you're writing some of these things down for yourself to gain more clarity and confidence, if you feel stuck, I want you to go outside and go for maybe a short jog, or, you know, go do a couple hits on a punching bag. Just do something physical first and then come back to it later. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand you.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Mark. I'm going to meet you right now, okay?
Okay.
All right. We'll take one more question, and I'm going to jump to you, Erin, because you were one of the first people that hopped on. How are you, my dear?
Good.
Awesome. How you doing? Good, 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 I hope.
Recovering.
You're
I don't know if you knew her. I'm not sure if you knew her. Our friend Janelle Javillanos had passed away. I was a little bit down in the dumps, depressed.
I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that.
A reminder that life is really, I don't want to say life is short, and it's kind of cliche, but just to really treasure every moment that we have, you know, here on this earth. So I pray for her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess a question. You know, there was something that you said that got my mind spinning earlier. I think it was just about, I don't know, I'm in Silicon Valley, so there's always a lot of noise, I guess you could say. I have a lot of friends who are founders and entrepreneurs, raising lots of money, and I just kind of felt like a lot of people pushing me to move a lot faster, so I have to pause. I get told that a lot, to pause, because I talk pretty fast. So just taking time to pause and go where I'm guided. I think I'm at another crossroads. I've been contemplating if I should be building my company while being in grad school, or if I should nix both completely and just take care of my family and go for the long term. You know, don't go high risk.
Oh, Erin, I think maybe your headphones may have got disconnected. I kind of lost audio from you.
Be better now.
Okay, yeah, much better.
So I think it's just in that decision. I've been sitting on this decision for about 5 months. Like, should I be in grad school and taking time to build my company correctly so I have domain expertise? I'm focused on helping Alzheimer's researchers through an AI and augmented reality platform. I'm really early.
Oh, amazing.
So super crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, everyone around me is saying, oh, just raise a bunch of money and just do it. Go, go, go. Or just like, don't get like a traditional job. Just, you know, just grind it out. I'm like, I don't want to be the 99% that fails. I really wanted to take time to really understand my company. So I think just that, I guess it's more of a reflection of like, how do you take more time to really pause when there's so much noise, to really hear yourself, where I feel guided, like, oh, I really need to take time to make sure that if I'm going to build this thing, not just about making money, really about helping people, we really need to understand. I have 2 uncles with mild dementia and Alzheimer's. My mom's really scared she has it. Building my first company about 3 years ago, I turned down investor money because it didn't make sense at the time. And I had that gut feeling that kind of told me, like, you know, don't run really fast, even if everyone is telling you take money and go. It's like, no. And I kind of feel like I have that same feeling again, except it's just a lot harder.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I really have it. I'm like, now you probably still need to work full time at a company while in grad school, so you have the domain expertise for what you want to do, because what I want for my company to really help people really requires that level of expertise. So just trying to listen to myself more and stop, like, how do I do that more? just because it's so hard these days, you know, when you have a lot of noise around you telling you one thing, when you kind of feel another, you know, and it takes time to really know yourself well enough to do that. So I guess just more tips on expanding on that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. So I'll give you an example of something that worked out for me. 3 years ago, about this time that I was telling you how I was kind of hitting this quote unquote rock bottom, I was at a huge crux in the road because I got an offer from a very large media company to have a killer position. I thought it was going to be my dream job, right? Where I was going to be at a big company, probably make close to 6 figures, thinking I was going to rise to the top. And it's everything I ever wanted to do, especially as a mass communications major. I was like, I just want to work at a ABC, NBC, Warner Brothers, CNN, you name it. That's where I want to be. Simultaneously, I got another offer from a group of friends of mine who are real estate entrepreneurs for barely half the money, no benefits, but all the potential to possibly help them build these other companies. Now, on paper, there was no doubt in my mind that the big media company with the benefits package and the big salary and the lifestyle was where I needed to go. And that on paper, the curveball offer that my entrepreneurial friends threw me did not make any sense. I wouldn't make nearly as much money. It's not even guaranteed. It's all off of hopes and dreams. We'll see what happens. But there's also the potential that could be amazing, right? So on paper, again, there's no competition. But inside of me was very different. Everything inside of me was actually pulling me in the direction of my good friends and helping them build these 3 real estate companies that they wanted to take to the next level. But there was still a piece of me that was like, yeah, but you've always wanted the big corporate career. You always wanted to get to the top. Imagine all the money and the influence that you'll have. It's going to be amazing. And then again, there was the other pole that said, but wait. These are people that you love. You can really build something. You'll have the freedom and the creativity to lead, to create, so on and so forth. Now, when I asked outside opinion, by nature, most people are like, you're crazy. There's no debate here. Like, take the big media job. Why would you go this direction? You don't even know if it's foolproof. Doesn't make any sense. And so I was getting a lot of feedback from people who meant well. Everybody wanted the best for me. But again, it's their best, not mine. So every time I wanted to make the decision towards the big media company, I got this horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach, like, nope, don't do it. And as much as I wanted to ignore it and just convince myself, like, no, but that's the safe route, everything in my stomach said, don't do it. So finally, I spoke to my mom because I really admire her opinion, and she has a very strong faith center, and she's just a very grounded person. And I asked her, what do you think? And now, mind you, my mom is an extremely practical person. She's been a nurse for 35 years. She's got a W-2 paycheck. She knows what she's going to make at every junction of her life. And she's the Virgo to a T, very like grounded and just does not want to make the risk. Conservative, to say the least. And she asked me, she's like, well, how do you feel? And I was kind of surprised because I didn't expect that from her. I thought she was going to ask me, well, what makes sense on paper? And I said, I don't know. Something keeps pulling me towards the guys to like work with them, to help them. Maybe if I just try it out for a year and see how it goes. And she looked at me and said, okay, will you be able to make that work on that budget with the lifestyle you want to live? And I said, yeah, I'm not going to be poor on the streets. It's just different than what I expected. She was like, okay, then why don't you pray on it a little bit more? In other words, meditate on it and see how you feel. And then one night I did. I took time in silence. I stopped asking people for their opinion. And I sat there. And everything inside of me kept pulling me towards that decision to work with the team. And so what I did is I took a journal and I just wrote that down, work with the team. And I trusted it. And I was like, all right, it just feels right. So I did, I trusted it. Fast forward 3.5 years later, not only have I built the ultimate life, but we ended up building a collaborative workspace together for other real estate entrepreneurs where I've been able to help and speak to other people, and their companies now are continually thriving. And there's many more other steps in between that, but the reason I want to share that story is because everything that we've built up until this point, I did not expect. And I actually made more money than probably what I would have made when I was at the big media company. Now, the money is not the point, because the money did ebb and flow. There were moments where I didn't think I was going to make any money, and then all of a sudden it kicked in. And then I invested in myself and it went down. And then again, like I was telling Nelly, ebb and flow, ebb and flow. It's never 100% all the time. But here's the key. None of that mattered to me because I loved what I did so much. And I became more and more and more of myself and had the freedom to discover her along the way. So I ended up negotiating a package that basically said, look, I know it's not the exact salary I want, but in lieu of that salary, another thing that's really important to me right now is improving myself and self-education. So would you guys be willing to give me a stipend that I get to spend every year on any seminar that I want? So I'm just giving this to you as an example, as there are other creative ways to still hit the goals you want to hit, but it may not be in the form that is taught to us a lot of the times. But the key to all of this is taking time either by yourself, away from all of the noise, and hearing the guidance, writing it down on paper, because when it's on paper, it's very different. You'll see a clarity and a truth on paper that you won't get in your mind. And then the second thing that helped me is only go to one person that you really respect and admire and just get their insight. But again, that's not your decision, meaning whatever they tell you is not the decision you should make. Just let it marinate within you. And at the end of the day, go with what you are guided. But like you were asking me, how do you wash out the noise? You already did, to be honest, at the beginning of this conversation. You already said what you wanted. It's very evident what you're feeling, what direction you know you should go. It's just a matter of, well, what are they going to think? Are they going to say anything? Is this the right task? I don't know all the steps ahead of me. You won't know all the steps ahead of you because you have no idea how amazingly it's going to unfold when it is what you're called towards. That's the beauty of the journey, is you won't know all the amazing characters you're going to meet along the way. You don't always going to know the great restaurants that you're going to pass by on this road, but you got to trust it enough that if it's where you're pulled towards, where it's where you're guided, there's a reason for it. Just like little kids, like what I was telling Nelly, sometimes a little kid will just do something because she feels like doing something because it felt right for her, but she doesn't know all the steps along the way, but it brought her a lot of joy. That's what you are being called to right now, because in your joy is your power. And then if there's anything that, I think her name is Janelle, right? Your friend? If there's anything, like you said, that her life testimony can give to you, is that time is limited for many of us. And so can you take every moment that you have so that it is a testimony to your choice and joy, not other people's, not other things, because at the end of the day, it's not going to matter what your Silicon Valley friends thought or what, this person thinks of you. It's, did you make the decision that was aligned to your heart? Because when you are counting down the hours towards the end of your life, when you are taking your last breaths, I hope that you say, yeah, I did it my way. I did the things that I wanted to do and I tried it. And you will ebb and flow with it. Sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes it does. But you are already being set up right now to go in the direction that's pulling you. I can hear it in your voice. You know your decision. It's just a matter of step 2, which is setting up now the environment of support. Okay, so and this is a good segue because I want to make sure that I leave not just this conversation, but even you with this, Nelly, is it would be premature for me to tell everybody, go follow your joy, do what brings you the most happiness, and everything is going to be amazing. I'd be lying because that's not exactly my journey either. Like I said, I had my ebbs and flows, but here's what kept me steady. I knew how to set up an environment of support, an environment that allowed me to thrive. So in those moments when I did dip, in those moments where I lost myself again, because it's going to happen. That's not a perfect journey. But I had the right people and things in place to keep me moving forward. And what that environment of support is, whether it is a group of mentors, a coaching group, a community that you go to, podcasts that you listen to, videos that you constantly watch, quotes that are on your wall at all times, even the foods that you eat, the environment that surrounds you, essentially is what I'm saying, is the key component to allowing you to thrive as you make these leaps of faith. So that you always have a very soft landing pad the moments that you feel you're about to crash, because it happens to all of us. It's like a wave in an ocean. It's up and then you crash down. But when you have all the right people, and I put that in quotes because it's not just people around you, it's the people you choose to be around you. So with that comes, how do I say this? I'm just going to say it bluntly, eliminating some relationships in your life for the time being. It doesn't mean that the love isn't there, but it's just not right for you in this moment. And it's going to be those relationships that put you down, that are negative, that don't believe in you. You have to have the strength to cut those cords to get to the next level, because when you rise, they will rise too. But you can't get sick enough to make somebody else healthy. You can't be sad enough to make someone else happy. You can't be poor enough to make someone else rich. So you must keep rising and trust that as you get to the next level of you, you will be able to reach back and help them. Because I can tell your heart is always for the community. Your heart is to help all these people thrive, but you must thrive first. And the one way you do that is setting yourself up in an environment, a really fertile soil for your plant to grow. And that fertile soil is going to be a group of great mentors, coaches, friends, support. And how you know it's good for you is very simple. It feels right for you. Because there's a ton of them, right? There's a million out there and they're all good. But you have to ask the question, is this good for me? And you know if it's good for you because it'll feel right or it won't. Sympathetic resonance. Going back to that same key. Feel your way to it. Just like with Nelly. If this exercise group tells you that they've had amazing results, that's great. But the better question is, does it feel right for you? If it doesn't, then you're not going to get the results that you want, period. That's how it works. So even for you, as you make the choice, right, whether you choose your entrepreneurial group of friends or the big media group, which is the boat I was in. So for you, whether it's you choose this direction or that direction, make your choice and then immediately start setting yourself up in an environment of people, podcasts, foods, physical environment that you know is going to help you thrive. So whether it's you print out your morning mantras and you put it on your bathroom window, your bathroom mirror, or you start doing these weekly coaching calls with people, or you have a women's group or a tech group that feels good for you. Not just because you feel like you have to be part of them, but really it resonates with you. That's what you want. Even having a mentor or one coach or two coaches or whoever, just advisors in your corner to remind you of your strength, to remind you of the possibilities and the positivity. Because when two or more are gathered, and you'll read about this in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, is the power of the mastermind. I'm sure you're familiar with it. But utilize that power. But you must set yourself up in an environment of support where you can be with those people so that your decision feels supported. And then the last thing I want to add to this is there is no rush ever when it comes to these things. If you're ever feeling rushed, that usually means you're making the decision out of fear. Now, you know the difference between rush and urgency. Urgency is the need to act on something because perhaps someone's going to die, or there is a moment of decision that needs to happen because it's vital for this moment to thrive. That's urgency. Rush is, I'm afraid if I don't, this will happen, or somebody else will take over it, or the opportunity will be lost to me. There is a very big difference. Urgency is usually done in love and understanding. Rush is out of fear of scarcity or being beat to the punch. So you have to discern which of these is leading you in that moment. And it sounds like for most of those folks, it's rush. Because especially in Silicon Valley, they're going to tell you like, you've got to get to it or it's over, right? I mean, how many companies have come up out of the ranks and they weren't necessarily the first company to start it, but now they're the second or the third and they're thriving more than the first. Because they were actually smart enough to learn from the mistakes of the first and then create their company based off of those fixtures. So what I'm saying is there's an abundance of ways to get things done. But how it's right for you is when it feels right for you. So the power in the pause is, yeah, maybe you need to spend just your mornings completely disconnected from electronics. Like when I sleep, I put my phone on airplane mode because I don't like the electromagnetic frequency that emits from my cell phone, because that's a whole different thing we'll get into. But I make sure that I don't spend the first half of my morning just texting and on social media. And that's hard because I usually will go to that. That's a habit. But if you want to practice the pause, that is one way you can do that, is even if the first 30 minutes of your morning is completely in silence, off the grid, and you just listening to yourself, going for a walk, working out, journaling, get into the habit of hearing your own voice before you hear the voices of the world. So that's one way that I practice that is, again, get up. You're going to stumble a couple times, and there won't be every morning where you wake up not reaching for your phone, because I still do it. But then you'll sense the difference of when you spend your mornings hearing your voice versus they're spending your mornings going to other people and responding. You'll feel the difference there as far as your steadiness and your clarity with your decision making. Is that resonating with you?
Super helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Good. And like I said, like I was telling Nellie, if things come up for you right now, definitely email me. Happy to respond to it, set up strategy, whatever support you need. That's the environment that I'm creating here. So just send me a message, girl. Send it to Camille at theultimatelife, LYFE.com. Because I think you may have sent an email to my Camille Soler. I don't check that one as often, so I'm sorry if I haven't gotten back to you on that one. And then I want you to know too, as you're going through this process with grief with your friend, because I don't want to just blow over that like it's nothing. First of all, I'm sending you energy and love for that healing process. And then second, if and when you're ready to, reflect on or write the gifts she's given you. Because there is something she has done in her life that will inspire your next move. I have a good feeling about that. That there's something about her personality or what she's done in her life next that you can turn and shift these emotions of pain, perhaps of grieving, into one of love and legacy. So look for the gifts that she's given you and ask yourself, how can I apply this now? The life of my friend to what I'm going to do moving forward to serve other people. I mean, certainly she's lived a life of service and a life of love, because for her to affect a friend like yourself in any which way is testimony to the type of person she was and will continue to be in spirit. So see how you can add that lesson, that gift of hers to your life moving forward. That's how you'll also tap into her energy even more in this process. You're welcome. Is there anything else, Erin?
No, I think that's good. That was a lot.
I know. I want to say I'm sorry, but at the same time, I'm not, because when I'm in flow, it's a message for you, essentially. And like I said, I will send out this recording so you all can re-listen to this as needed. All right, Erin, I'm going to throw you on mute, but thank you so much for asking that question.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I got some private messages from folks, and I'm going to respect your privacy on the chat. So what I will do is I'm going to answer these via email to you personally. If you've sent me a private message, just in case, can you put in the chat box for me right now your email address so I can answer those for you? And then I know we went a little bit over time because I think I only want to do an hour and a half. But as you can see, when we start getting into this work and people start giving their own personal testimony and their own story, you can't limit this to one sentence, or at least not in this process. But there is a formula that is a framework. It's not like you have to do this all the time, but a framework to help you move forward. And like I said, take power in the pause. Go where you're guided. And then the last piece I will give you is just remembering that your environment is key So I call my formula mindset, action, environment. We talked a lot about mindset. We talked a little bit about how to take action, which is going where you're guided. But important is your environment. You know, my mom was a really, really awesome person. And she used to tell me when I was a little girl, you are a POE. I was like, what's a POE? And she's like, POE. You're a product of your environment. And I was like, okay, Mom, thanks for the acronym. But what do you mean by that? She's like, the people you surround yourself with will very much influence who you become. And you all know this. If you're around a bunch of negative folks, probably going to be negative. If you're around really positive folks, you're going to be positive. If you're a bunch around what I call a lot of thoroughbreds, people who are pushing to get to the next level, you're going to feel the urgency to get to the next level too. So set yourself up in an environment and take a lesson from Jim Rohn, who said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So look at the 5 people you are interacting with the most. Look at their personalities, look at their income, or more or less what you think their income is. Look at their bodies even. And that's going to tell you a lot about yourself because you are more or less the average of those people. So if you want to fix your health, change your health, increase your health, get around some really healthy people. If you want to increase your income, get around some really, thriving people in the financial sector. If you want to become more positive in your mindset, I think you know where I'm going here. Get around some really positive people. And again, if you are commenting on the chat box, please type in your email address so I know how to answer you privately to your question here. And here's what I will bid you off a farewell with. That my goal with the Ultimate Life is to really build this world of individuals, inspired individuals who are living the fullest, highest expression of themselves every day. I will be one guide, one teacher, one supporter in that effort, but believe me, I won't be the only one. So one of the ways I've established community is creating this, what I call the LYFE Minded membership. And I will not go into all the details here because you can go on my website and you can look it up, theultimatelife.com/membership. But what I will do is I will send you an email with this recording and then also a link if you want to make the decision to join, to be in this environment of support. Because like I said, when you can get around these thoroughbreds, all these other people that I call the life-minded, which means they are living and choosing to be at their fullest potential every day. You get around enough of these people, you get the right support, and you get on the wavelength, the sympathetic resonance of heart and mind connection, the possibilities are limitless. And the one thing that I'm establishing right now is I'm creating an online website just for a lot of the videos and teachings that I do, because a lot of people have been asking me, can you just put all your videos in one place? So you as a LYFE-Minded member, if you choose to sign up, you'll get access to all that along with the PDFs to kind of give you some journaling questions, similar to what I was talking about tonight with Nellie and Aaron and even Mark, to give you that platform to move forward. So think of it this way. If you spend a monthly membership on a gym, or like I said, you spend X amount a day on Starbucks, it's the same thing. This is investment in yourself to essentially keep yourself in this community, this thriving, fertile soil of high achievers. And when I say high achievers, I'm not just talking about push, push, push. I'm actually talking about being pulled towards your mission, being pulled towards where you're guided, and to get rid of all the blocks that are holding you back. We journey on this together because we're an ever-evolving species, an ever-evolving group of people. And if you are an entrepreneur in this group, you are perhaps a CEO or a leader of some sort of organization, we can talk also privately if you need more one-on-one guidance, because that's kind of a different level that I take it to with you, to get insight on your people, to get insight onto your finances, and more importantly, to get insight on your relationships. Because how your intimate relationships go will directly affect your business. We all know this. And I say this not because it's controversial, but because this is the thing that I see affects most high achievers the most, is they think, oh, I'll just keep my personal life separate and then my business life over here. You are one whole person. And if that relationship is also not pushing and thriving with you and growing, I see a lot of people on the call like nodding, it'll directly affect you. So really the goal is here for you to get in the highest vibrational state, to break the old patterns of fear, and to be in an environment that's going to sustain your rise. And real quick, going back to the chat box, shout out, thank you, Robert, but thank you for your positive influence. God bless you. I will be in touch. Keep me informed. You got it, Robert. Sending you love as well. Jason, Camille, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Great positive information. Enjoyed listening to you on Josh Schmidt's podcast as well. Oh, you're so welcome, Jason. I'll add a link to that podcast if you guys want to listen to that interview. I talk about how to overcome your fears and step into your greatness with a real estate entrepreneur, Josh Schmidt. Nellie, oh, thank you, girl. I really appreciate you and your time. Thanks for speaking with me. You're so welcome. Please give Jacqueline a big hug for me. I saw her chiming in. She's also wanting to get involved in self-development, apparently. Stephanie Wall, you said, oh, you also found me on Josh's podcast. That's awesome. All right, you all. Well, again, I know we're at time, so just expect another email from me. Be sure, because sometimes people, get filtered out. Add Camille at The Ultimate Life. It's Camille with a K, K-A-M-I-L-L-E. I'll actually put it in the chat box here. Camille at theultimatelife.com. Go ahead and add that to your contact list so that my email doesn't get filtered out. That way you get the call recording for tonight. And again, I thank you all for being here. And there are many things we talked about, but the main thing is that you pull what resonates for you. And that's why I say, if you decide to re-listen to this call, which I highly advise, do it in a space and time where you're not going to have distractions, because every time you do listen to this, you will pull something different. Just like you watch a movie over and over again, but every time you see something new, or you read a book over and over again, and then something else sticks out at you, that's what you want. You will not take everything from this conversation, but you will take everything that you need for this moment. And that's what's important, because you're always looking for sympathetic resonance. So I honor you, I thank you, and I love you all dearly. I am here if you need me, but just know that I'm always sending you energy and support. And I do this work because I'm in this work. And I know what it feels like to have to break through a lot of playing small, a lot of outside noise, and to build myself up, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a leader of love. I'm a daughter, I'm an auntie, I'm a cousin, I'm all these other facets. And I always want to show up as my best self so that I never go back to that moment 3 years ago where if all of this ever gets stripped of me again, I don't ever want to stand in front of the mirror and say, I don't know that woman, nor do I like her. I want to be able to look at myself and say, yeah, I'm proud of you. You're doing well, and we will redo it all over again if we have to. So until next time, I bid you all a wonderful, wonderful evening. Be on the lookout for this recording. And if you feel called to it, then pull the trigger and make the decision to be a LYFE Minded member, and know that that particular rate that you'll sign up at, you are grandmothered or grandfathered in for life. For other folks, it'll be fluctuating because the price of the program may change. But for you all, if you make the decision, I would like to give and honor you that, opportunity to lock it in. Because my members who are in it now, they paid $497 last year, and then another one paid $595, and that's it. That's it for them for the 20 years that this will be around, or whatever it's going to be. So I thank you all for taking the time in yourself, and have a good evening. Until next time, live in love. Good night, everybody.